Welcome to my podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about one of the most dramatic, misunderstood, and emotionally charged stories in European history. A story full of power, image, injustice, and a young woman who became a symbol of everything that went wrong with an entire system. I'm talking about Marie Antoinette and the French Revolution. And I want to tell this story not as a list or a timeline of dates, but as a human story because behind the wigs, the diamonds, the propaganda, and the guillotine, there was a human being caught in the collapse of an entire nation. So settle in and let's go back to the beginning. Before Marie Antoinette ever set a foot in France, the country was already in a time bomb. Imagine a kingdom drowning in debt, decades of war, bad harvests, and a tax system designed to protect the wealthy while squeezing the poor. The monarchy lived in unimaginable luxury at Versailles, while ordinary people struggled to afford bread. And on top of that, Enlightenment ideas were spreading everywhere. Philosophers were questioning the divine rights of the kings, demanding liberty, equality, and representation, or as the national slogan during that time was Liberté, Égalité ou la mort, or Unité, Indivisibilité de la République. So when Marie Antoinette arrived, she stepped into a country already boiling with resentment. Marie Antoinette, or Archduchess Maria Antonia Josefa Joanna, was born on November 2nd, 1755, in Hofburg, Vienna, Austria, the 15th child of Empress Marie Theresa I of Austria. Raised in a luxurious but disciplined world of the Habsburg court, she grew up surrounded by music, etiquette, and diplomacy. At just 14 years old, she was married to the French Dauphin and future King of France, Louis XVI, becoming the Dauphin of France, to strengthen the alliance between Austria and France. She arrived at Versailles in 1770. She was still a teenager, suddenly surrounded by strict court rituals, gossip, and expectations she didn't understand. When Louis XVI acceded to the throne in 1774, she became queen at just 18 years old. Despite being queen, she was criticized for everything: her Austrian background, her fashion, her spending, and her inability to produce an heir. With limited political influence, she turned to fashion, theater, and private gatherings, which filled her reputation for extravagance. During the early days of her reign, she started to befriend some of her male admirers, but made deep friendships with various ladies at court. The most noted was Marie-Thérèse Louise of Savoy, or mostly known as the Princess of Lamballe. But not everything in life is a bed of roses, because she had problems with her marriage because, as I mentioned before, she couldn't produce an heir. So it took her 7 years to consummate that marriage. After those 7 years, she was able to give birth to 4 children: Marie-Thérèse, Louis-Joseph, Louis-Charles, which soon will become Louis XVII, and Marie-Sophie. But only Marie-Thérèse survived into adulthood and became queen for just 20 minutes. And yet, she became a cultural icon. Her hairstyles reached impossible heights. Her gowns set trends across Europe. She built a private retreat, the Petit Trianon, where she tried to escape the suffocating court life by pretending to be a peasant woman. But to the French people, especially during economic hardship, her lifestyle looked like an insult. Scandals like the diamond necklace affair damaged her public image even further. By the late 1780s, France was in a deep financial crisis, and although the revolution had not yet begun, Marie Antoinette had already become a symbol of royal excess. By 1789, France had reached its breaking point. The Estates General met for the first time in over 150 years, and the Third Estate, the Commoners, declared themselves the National Assembly. Then came the moment that will echo through history: the storming of the Bastille and the arrest of the governor Bernard-René Jourdan, Marquis de Launay, on July 14, 1789. The revolution had begun. The next day, on July 15th, Marie-Joseph Paul-Yves Roche Gilbert Dumoutier, Marquis de Lafayette, or known here in America as General Lafayette, was named Commander-in-Chief of the newly formed National Guard. 2 months after the storming of the Bastille, the abolition of feudal privileges by the National Constituent Assembly on August 4, 1789, and la Déclaration des droits et de l'homme et du citoyen, or in English, Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen, drafted by Lafayette with the help of Thomas Jefferson and adopted on August 26, paved the way to a constitutional monarchy. And on top of that, Marie Antoinette became the perfect villain. Pamphlets portray her as immoral, manipulative, even monstrous. She was blamed for France's financial crisis and given the nickname Madame Deficit. The irony? Her personal spending was a tiny fraction of the royal budget, but perception mattered more than truth. She wasn't just a queen anymore. She was a symbol of everything the revolutionaries wanted to destroy. As the revolution grew more radical, the royal family became prisoners in their own palace. In 1791, between June 20-21st, they attempted a desperate escape, the flight to Varennes. If they had made it to the border, history may have been different. But they were recognized, arrested, and brought back to Paris in humiliation. That moment destroyed any remaining trust between the monarchy and the people. By 1792, the monarchy was abolished, and one of them being Marie Antoinette's best friend, the Princess of Lamballe, on September 3rd of the same year in a horrible way. Louis XVI was executed on January 21st, 1793. Marie Antoinette followed 9 months later on October 16th. Both of them guillotined at la Place de la Révolution, today known as la Place de la Concorde. She walked to the guillotine with dignity, wearing a simple white dress. Witnesses said she held her head high until the very end. After her execution, her head was given to Marie Tussaud, or famously known as Madame Tussaud, to make a death mask of her head. Marie Antoinette's death didn't end her story, it transformed it. Over the centuries, she became a myth, a symbol of decadence, a tragic heroine, a misunderstood queen. Just like the phrase says, hated in life, loved in death, because nowadays she is being referenced anywhere, like in fashion, in sports. For example, she was referenced in the opening ceremony for the 2024 Summer Olympics. In movies, until last year, There have been multiple Marie Antoinette's movie adaptations since the 30s, as well as in music, and the most recent one this year was a museum exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. The famous quote, "Let them eat cake," she never said it. It was propaganda, a way to turn her into a monster. Modern historians see her differently. A teenager thrown into a hostile court, a queen blamed for problems she didn't create, and a woman trapped in a collapsing system. Her life forces us to think about how public opinion is shaped, how political narratives are built, and how individuals become symbols, sometimes unfairly. The French Revolution changed the world. It challenged monarchies, inspired democracies, and reshaped political thought. But within that massive historical shift was a human story, Marie Antoinette's story. She wasn't perfect. She made mistakes, but she also was young, isolated, and overwhelmed by forces far bigger than herself. Her life reminds us that history isn't just events, it's people. People with fears, hopes, flaws, and dreams. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If you enjoy this deep dive, make sure to follow, share, and join me next time as we explore another moment that shaped our world.